we need to be thankful to God uh, for us to be here. Let me turn this off. So we'll be starting from Surah number 23, verse number 19. So I'll just read 118 because this is kind of linked with the other verse. I seek refuge in God from Satan, the rejected, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Verse 118, say, my Lord, shower us with forgiveness and mercy. Of all of the merciful ones, you are the most merciful. And I'm sorry, okay, I don't know where I am. Sorry about that, guys. I'm in the wrong area. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Okay, verse 19. So we send down from the sky water in exact measure, then we store it in the ground. Certainly we can let it escape. With it we produce for you orchards of date, palms, grapes, all kind of fruits, and various foods. Also, a tree native to Sinai produces oil as well as relish for the eaters, and the livestock should provide you with a lesson. We let you drink milk from their bellies. You derive other benefits from them, and some of them you use for food. On them and on the ships you ride. Okay. So the reason I wanted to stress the other verse was um, God is talking about growing all these vegetations and livestock, and it starts from coming the water from the sky. And this is something we need to ponder upon, that if we don't have rain, as we see some part of the world, when they don't have uh, rain for a while, then they have droughts and they cannot grow any vegetation. And if you don't have any vegetation, it is like, how are you gonna feed your livestock? So all starts from the water that coming from the sky. And how mashallah Shima has mentioned in the last Quran study, also to ponder that you know the way the rain drops from the sky, the clouds, they hold all that millions of tons of water, which if comes down, it can bring flood. But how amazing is this, that these water vapors, they come in like, you know how you turn on your shower and it trickles down, and if the whole water that you're going to take shower with, if all comes in once, not only it's not going to benefit us, and it's going to, in this, especially for the rain, it will cause destruction. And what in the world, if somebody was to say that all this happened by itself, how in the world are you going to justify on the day of judgment that the rain has so many cycles, from the starts from the sun, the heat of the sun, the vapors, the evaporation from the oceans and water, and traveling to the place is supposed to go, and then the seeding effect happen. All these cycles, one after another. If you just take out one cycle, there will be no rain. If the seeding doesn't affect, if the winds doesn't push the water, the clouds, I mean, how are you going to justify such a perfect system of rain? And how in the world that they go, most of the time they rain on the mountains high up, where the water freezes and it just slowly comes down as a lakes. All these things to ponder upon, that to makes us more and more certain that there is someone who's controlling all that. So that is not a random effect. And this brings us to the next level, that we are here for something. And then the next level, that what we're supposed to do, and then also makes us more and more confirm that this life is just a very temporary state, that we are reporting back to God. All these things, if we can be very very certain, our priorities will fall in the right spot automatically. We don't even have to motivate ourselves. When you see the reality, with that water, God is growing all kind of vegetation, though they grow from the same ground, same nutrition. Some of them are peppers and sweet and sour, all kind of fruits that God grows from the same water and same sunlight. And God is saying that, some of them, the tree that native to the Sinai is they produce oil, and you eat relish from that when we enjoy God's blessing. And this is something to be pondered upon. And the livestock that God has given us, and God is saying that there is a lesson in it, in the livestock, which is, we already talked about water. What are the odds of all these steps happening one after another right in the spot? If you even switch the spot, then the rain won't happen. And if you talk about the livestock, what are the odds of these animals, cow, sheep, lamb, goat, chicken, all these domestic animals? What are the odds of evolution deciding that, we created human being, let's create some livestock. Humans gonna eat the vegetation, the the okra, the all kind of the vegetables that we eat, the fruits, and the byproduct of these vegetations. When you grow grain, all these leaves will be fed to the animals. Then these human can drink from their milk and use the meat. And how, I mean, all this a compact cycle. I mean, everything's fitting in the right spot. It's like opening a machinery and every part fits in the right spot. All this to ponder that there is one God. Somebody is controlling. It's not random. Very, very important thing to ponder upon. Why in the world the livestock are eating just the vegetation, the chicken and everything? And what in the world that they grow so fast? Like a cow, when it has a calf, maybe in 6 months, it's almost the size of a cow. What if these animals would grow at the same rate of human being? Like, you have to nurture them for 2, 3, 4 years, and they're still like a baby, and then 15, 16, 8, 20 years, then they grow to the full size. What are the odds? The chicken that comes out of the egg right away starts running and start eating, and within 3, 4, I mean, nowadays even 1 month, they are grown to the full size, and you can use it for meat. What if this was not a thing? Do you think all these things, that perfect cycle happen random? So these are the lessons that we need to ponder. Recently there was a Hajj, and then I saw someone who, the traditional Muslim, they do sacrifice animals, and the way they were talking about it was just, insane. That it's like their right. These animals are their right to eat. And the way they were laughing and chattering, they sacrificed 2 goats, I think. And the way they were saying, it was so much fun. We cut the animals and we hang them upside down and we take off their skin. The way they were laughing and joining, that this was some kind of fun, where it's supposed to be so much reverence to God that He has given us these livestock to eat. We have to be extremely humble and reverence when we even butcher them for meat, and respect these creatures. These are submitters of God. They're doing their job, and not laugh about it. And they're posting videos online where their tongue is sticking out, like blood is coming out, and they're making selfie videos. I mean, this is such a satanic cult that you can see the people are doing. And I'm not saying that they're not to eat the meat, but we have to be reverence to God for providing us with the food and everything, even the apple, and drinking clean cold water, and everything that we take. We need to be thankful to God providing us with take the water to do the wudu, the shower, everything. the, this brings us appreciation to God when we don't, not just saying by thank you God, thank you, showing by us by our emotions, our reverence to God by all the things that God has provided us. This appreciation is a very, very powerful tool in submission. That how much we are appreciating God and many other benefits. Not only that, you ride on some of them, like horse, camel, and donkeys, and then nowadays we have other technology. But where did that technology came from? The automobile, the jet planes, and who put all that oil in the ground? Millions of before, like dinosaur. Who put that in there for us to use it now? I mean, even though you ride in the car, do you think you made the car? Do you think you produce the oil that goes in the car? Just like God said, the cyanide that produces the oil. And maybe God is talking about this oil that we are producing, the cyanide that produces, yeah, of course, the olive oil and other oils. But maybe God is talking about the oil that we burn in our cars right now. I mean, who produced that? Who put that in the earth millions of years ago? And even if you're riding on the ship, everything is created by God. And right after that, God talks about Noah, that we sent Noah to his people, saying, "O my people, worship God. You have no other God beside him. Would you not be righteous?" The leaders who disbelieved among his people said, "This is no more than a human being like you who wants to gain prominence among you. Had God willed, he could have sent down angels. We never heard of anything like him, like this from our ancestors. He is simply a man gone crazy. Just ignore him for a while." He said, "My Lord, grant me victory, for they have disbelieved in me." We know the very well know the story of Noah, 950 years telling the message to his people, his family, his son rejecting along the way, and what a persistent he was that keep reminding them the message. And what are the people are saying? His message is simple: you have no other God beside him. Would you not be righteous? And this being the message of all the messengers and prophets, same message, same message. And what are they saying? That he's no more than a human being like you, which is actually a truth. Messengers are no more than a human being like us. Even Surah 18, the last verse, God is talking about Muhammad, that he is no more than a human being like you. I mean, why are you praising him to the point that you are putting yourself on the floor? If you see some of the praises they sing, is called the knots. The way they do it, I mean, it's beyond. I mean, they leave God way behind. The wording of those is just like literally prostrating to the prophet. I mean, this is insane. And God is saying he's just a human being like you. That God is telling us that he select the messengers and prophet among his servants who can do the job. And God, who knows more than God, that who is more worthy of delivering the message. So he selects the right people for the message. And what we do, we instead of listening to the message, we make this person as a God in so many different forms. Somewhere the Son of God, or somewhere we are even higher than God, that you leave God behind. At least in Christianity, in my understanding, they at least treat all three gods in the same level. But what have we done? We praises him so far beyond God. Then who is our God? I mean, think about it. This has been the tragedy with the human being, that they do want to believe that what has been passed on to them, even though seeing the truth. And these people are also blaspheming that this messenger wants to get a good spot in your. I mean, and God tells us that messengers, they don't ask for anything. Even the messenger of the covenant did not ask for any money. In fact, he says that whenever we have any project or anything we do, I make sure the money goes out of my pocket. So I don't even break even. The more is going out, so at least I'm not keeping anything. And this has been the case with all the messengers. They don't want anything from you, and he doesn't want any level in your gathering or something. And then they're saying, if God will, God could have sent angels down. I mean, why would God send angels to send a message to? And God is even saying in Surah number 6 that had He sent angels, even the dead speak to them, they will not believe, because they're just making excuses upon excuses, new excuses, because they don't want to believe. And that's just plain simple. Then even calling him crazy, and same has been said about pretty much all the prophets and messengers. And even Mr. Khalifa was not even excused from that. He was called the same, and they are just saying simply ignore him. And at that point, when it's just like when Noah said, there's no point. I mean, I've been giving the message a long time, and he's praying to God to give him the victory. We then inspired, verse 27, we then inspired him, make a watercraft under our watchful eyes and in accordance with our inspiration. When our command comes and the atmosphere boils up, put on it a pair of every kind of your domesticated animals and your family, except those who condemn to be doomed. Do not speak to me on behalf of those who transgressed, they will be drowned. Once you are saddled together with those who are with you on the watercraft, you shall say, praise God for saving us from the evil people, and say, my Lord, let me disembark into a blessed location. You are the best deliverer. These should these should provide sufficient proofs for you. We will certainly put you to the test. And here, so these people have been rejecting Noah, and now all of a sudden they see him making a watercraft. At that time, they were probably also calling him all kind of names, like this is a place where the water usually probably it's not there. I mean, like imagine you. I don't know if what kind of environment was that, and if somebody's building an ark in the desert, people will call him crazy, and and probably they were thinking there are mountains, were high mountains in that area, so they were like thinking, what even if the flood comes, they can climb the mountains. So must have he must have heard all kind of different names at during even that time, and that this they might even be saying this person is completely gone crazy, and that maybe was a test for the believers that believe in Noah, that if they believe him solidly that he's a messenger of God, and they will submit, yes, just like Prophet Muhammad, when God says that to change the direction of the Kaaba for a short time, this was a test for them too. That those believers, those believe with him, they were tested. You know, in the same sense, when Noah was building, it was a test, also in some sense, and every kind of animals. God is saying that when the water starts coming, and put all kind of domesticated animals, and these were not as we see on the pictures, elephant and all kind of stuff. It was their native like livestock that they use it for agriculture, their food and everything, like chicken and cow and sheep and all that kind of horse, so they can reproduce once they land on the other different place, and your family also. But God is already telling him, don't ask me about those who are condemned to be doomed. But there and Noah, when his son was drowning, he prays to God. He prayed to God that save my son, and God tells him he's not your son. And we will surely find out those people we call our family and friends. We will know that on the day of resurrection that if they are really our family or not. And the footnote says the storytellers have created a mockery of Noah's history. Noah's ark was a flat watercraft made of logs tied together with primitive ropes. Surah 53, verse 13. The flood was local around the Dead Sea area, and the animals were Noah's domesticated animals. So this is we get a very clear picture what exactly happened. We don't have to look at those giant ships and the way they show in the pictures and all the animals. We know with the miracle of 19 and the message we have, we can literally see this stuff happening, and how he's tying up those logs, and everything is, we can vividly see and imagine without having any doubts, without a single doubt. This is exactly what happened. This is where you see the blessing of God, that when you believe, God shows you exactly, this is exactly what happened. No question whatsoever. And then, and God is saying that once you settle on it, what are you supposed to say? This is the commandment. You shall praise God for saving us from the evil people. And they were saying that, along with Noah, that they were praising God from the evil people, and and also pray to God that let me disembark into blessed location. You are the best deliverer. We have so many similar kind of du'as in the Quran that God tells us, like I seek refuge in God from Satan, Kurbi Auzubika min Hamazat Shayateen, Auzubika Rabbi Yazurun, and many other commandments that God is telling us to say when you do things. Uh, when you see something, you should praise God. And this should be sufficient proof for you. We will certainly put you to the test. And this is for us also in the same sense, that all this we read, that this we will be tested. And I don't know what kind of test God is talking about for Noah and his people. I mean, certainly this world is a test. And verse number 31, subsequently we established another generation after them. We sent to them a messenger from among them, saying, you shall worship God. You have no other God beside him. Would you not be righteous? The leaders among his people who disbelieved and rejected the idea of hereafter, although we provided for them generously in this life, say, this is no more than a human being like you. He eats from what you eat and drinks as you drink. If you obey him, if you obey a human being like him, you are really losers. Does he promise you that after you die and turn into dust and bones, you will come out again? Impossible. Impossible indeed is what he is indeed is what is promised to you. Okay, so subsequently, whenever a generation is annihilated, God make new generations in that area, and they also are tested in the same way. And then God saying, "We sent to them a messenger among them, saying that you shall worship God, and you have." And this is after Noah when they settle, and God sent subsequent to them, God sent messengers, and how this is where we learn that even those people on the ark and their children and after next generation, same cycle repeats again. This is where we really need to understand that no matter how righteous your parents are, as we go on, Satan is active. He's not going to leave you, and then people start going astray. And same thing happened within submission. And God sent another message, another messenger, another messenger. The cycle keeps spreading, and this is a very important system that we need to learn. And then the same thing they're saying to these leaders, these messengers that were coming, that the leaders among them who disbelieve say, because they rejected the idea of the hereafter. Basically, even if you say, "I believe in God and believe in Day of Judgment," your lifestyle speaks louder than your mouth. And if you are devoted to your job, to this life, to your family, to this world, and you're building mansions, everything's devoted to that, and what you're saying out of your mouth, that I believe in God and I believe in the hereafter, but your actions are completely the opposite. So the actions are the one to be seen. Although God says that God is the one provided them generously, and they say He's no more than a human being like you, which is the right statement in a sense, that they are just human beings, and they eat from what you eat and drinks as you drinks, and we know very well this is what the thing is. They go to the market. They have same physiological needs as me and you are. They are not a special human being that like they don't even go to the bathroom or they don't need to eat. Exactly same thing. And then they're saying, if you they're expecting something higher than that, but we have seen people have rejected with the messengers. They have like phenomenal miracles and they have rejected them. How would you justify Abraham putting in the fire and not even burn? How are you going to justify that on the day of judgment? What more miracles would you need than that? And there's no short of miracles in the Quran. There's no shortage on that. And then they also keep blaspheming that he promised you after you die and you turn into dust and bones and you come out again. Impossible. They stress this word. Indeed, is what is promised to you. That they completely reject the idea of. The other day I was talking to one person who was born in a religion and then he became atheist. He said, "I don't believe in anything." He's like, so some people are honest. At least they say we don't believe in anything. But some people they lie, and then all that stuff. As we understand. Verse 37: we only live this life. We live and die, and we will never be resurrected. He is just a man who fabricated lies and attribute them to God. We will never believe him. He said, "My Lord, grant me victory, for they have disbelieved me." He said, "Soon they will be sorry." The retribution struck them equitably, and thus we turned them into ruins. The wicked people perished. Subsequently, we established other generations after them. No community can advance its predetermined fate, nor delay it. So they on and on going that talking about we live only this life and this life and this life. You can see people and believe in religions and all they do is talk about this world. Very rarely you will see people sitting in a gathering. Rarely, rarely, extremely rarely. They talk about hell and heaven, and they talk about Day of Judgment. I mean, I haven't heard from the traditional religious people. I don't know how long that they have just talking about, other than, hey, so what are you doing about the um, PRA? You know what is PRA? Is a post, I think, post retirement account, something like that. The messenger mentions along there. They talk so much about the retirement plan in this world, like where are you investing when you get old, what kind of 401k plan you have, what kind of plans your company is offering, and all that's on and on and on and on. But rarely people talk about the hereafter. It's like they are afraid to talk about it, calling him all, and they're calling all kind of stuff that fabricated lies to attribute to God. They themselves are calling the messengers that they fabricated lies and attribute them to God. And you try that, as a submitter, you talk to somebody and give them the message, they're going to call you the same thing in different words, probably, that you're lying and you're fabricating lies about God. And where you're only talking about that we shall worship only God. We should only commemorate Him. We should only obey Him and nothing else. You know, and and they say we will not believe Him. And same thing, this I think these are the messengers after Noah. I think they are also praying to God that for the victory, and God is saying that soon they will be sorry what they have done. And God is talking about in other places that He does give people retribution time to time, but then when the ultimate retribution comes, and at that time they are stunned. And even on that, God is talking about, I don't know if in the same Quran study, that when God gives them the minor retributions, and God say they don't even take heed out of that. When they suffer with problems, they don't even take heed, and then until the ultimate retribution strikes them, and then at that time it's too late. And we have seen a lot of ruins of these wicked people that God has annihilated. Subsequently, we established other generation after them, and no community can advance its predetermined fate nor delay it. So this all thing is running in a cycle. You cannot, if God wants to give you so much time on earth and the chances, you cannot advance it or you cannot delay it. When that right time comes, when the most gracious commandment comes, and it happens right at the precise time without delay. Then we sent our messengers in succession. Every time a messenger went to his community, they disbelieved him. Consequently, we annihilated them one after the other and made them history. The people who disbelieved have perished. Moses and Aaron. Then we sent Moses and his brother Aaron with our revelations and a profound proof to Pharaoh and his elders. But they turned arrogant, they were oppressive people. They said, shall we believe for two men whose people are our slaves? They rejected the two, and consequently they were annihilated. We gave Moses the scripture that they may be guided. So this has been the cycle. Messenger God sends in succession. Every time a messenger went to the community, they disbelieved, except very, very few people. And consequently, what happens? God annihilates them. Before, it was the case that the whole community were to be annihilated, but now we see the big millions of people live in one city, and everybody. The cycle has not stopped, though the ways have changed. We know there's no messenger alive, but the message is there, and one way or the other, God says we send messengers to every community, as we learn. So it could be in any shape. People do get the message one way or either, would be through from submitters or through from other sources. God delivers the message to the people, and once they completely reject it, and they get annihilated individually. If you don't believe, you go to the old nursing homes or places where people normally leave this earth, like in the ICU beds, and you with your own eyes you can see people are being annihilated one after the other, being punished for their crimes that they did, as doing idol worship. Do you think that if you are a good believer and submitted, God will have you suffer in any kind of pain? Impossible it is, because God's words are the truth, the absolute truth. So anybody who suffers any kind of misery in this world, it is because they did not accept they did not believe in God. And this history that and made them the history is for us to ponder upon that. And this cycle is still continuing, because who disbelieved and perished. And then God talks about Moses and Aaron. We very well know about his story. And God gave him scripture, revelations, and profound proof. Uh, and to Pharaoh's and elder people, the two proof that initially he came with, they were rejected, and they were oppressed people. Imagine, interestingly, I think God is talking about the Pharaoh and his elders, but they turned arrogant. They were oppressive people. Um, really, if you really think about it, the oppressive people are the one who are really in the loss, who really don't know what they are in the world. Even though a believer is temporarily oppressed, it's this life is very short. Even if this person is suffering in oppression, God will ultimately save this person. But the real oppressive people are the one who are disbelieving God, because they are in Satan's kingdom. Though on the outside you may see them, living in a big mansions or something like that, but inside they are oppressed, completely oppressed. There's nothing good about that, if you really think about it. And then they're calling them should we believe on them whose people are their slave? As we know that the children of Israel at that time, they were their slaves. um, See, this is where the ego comes in, that they are anytime you put somebody down for some reason, this means you are putting yourself high, and you are you're doing idol worship basically at that point, because anything that we have good in ourselves, business or education or anything positive that we have, it Surah 4 verse I think 79, that it comes from God. We didn't do nothing to gain that status. So if you see a beggar on the street, if you see somebody who's not as well as you, and you call them name, I mean, this is because you think you did. In fact, we're supposed to be praising God for giving us this status. If you're driving a nice car and somebody has a broken car, you don't look at them as down. You praise God, that God, thank you for giving me a car that works fine, that you have blessed me with all this stuff. And you be kind to the other person, and if you can help them, that's even better in that sense. And this is the ego is talking, and they rejected them, as we know. And then God gave Moses the scripture, and that they may be guided. We made the son of Mary and his mother a sign, and we gave them a refuge on a mesa with food and drink. One God, one religion. O you messengers, eat from the good provisions and work righteousness. I am fully aware of everything you do. Such is your congregation, one congregation, and I am your Lord. You shall reverence me. But they tore themselves into disputing factions, each party happy with what they have. Therefore, just leave them in their confusion for a while. Do they think that since we provided them with the money and children, we must be showering them with blessings? Indeed, they have no idea. Surah 21, where God talks about Mary, and right after Mary, God is talking about one congregation. Here again, with Mary, God is talking about one congregation. All the messengers and prophets, the believers, is one nation, one religion, one congregation. There's no difference. And those who obey, they start dividing themselves into disputing facts. And same thing for Mary and his son, that God has provided them with the food and drink, and at the same time, God is telling them that eat from all the good stuff that we provided you, and work righteousness, and in a sense, that to be appreciative of God, and whatever you're doing or anyone is doing, God is fully aware. And this is one congregation, and God is our Lord, and we shall reverence Him alone. And that is it. There's no other religion. than worshiping God alone and reverencing, because He is the one who's providing, controlling, He's doing everything. And to be honest with you, we need to be really humble to God that the number one thing that He did to us, that He has created us. Just ever think about it. If He had He not created your soul, your mind, and you would never have existed, and His creations as angels and other creations would have gone and enjoy God's blessings and be happy and all that stuff, you would never have been existed. So that's the fact alone that we have come into existence. As we look around and we see the colors and the taste of the food and the good feelings and everything that we doing, it is because the mind that is enjoying it is created by God. This body is just this vehicle, and it's gonna shed it. And the soul, that the real mind that lives in, that is the one that you are, that is God created. Imagine how God has created and created that soul, that mind. And for that alone, it requires so much reverence to God, that you have created us. Why would we ever, disobey you? Why would you? I mean, this is a privilege that you allow us to say thanks to you. It's a privilege that you allow us to bow down and prostrate to you, because we are worthy of nothing. He's the most gracious. He's so awesome that this is a huge blessing. Even to say thanks to Him. And I repeat, mashallah, every time that some powerful person gives you something, and then he's busy. I mean, he doesn't have time for you to even say thanks to him. And the most gracious encourages us to say as much thanks that we can on the daily basis. This is a huge blessing. And people are, when they disobey this, they can start keep dividing themselves in different factions. They just leave them in the confusion, in talking about the Moses and Aaron and whatever God has provided them. They think that this is a blessing. In fact, it only brings misery. If you're not with God, no matter how much wealth you accumulate on this earth, that wealth can never bring happiness. It only brings misery. It might give you a very temporary taste of joy, but there is no place for happiness. Surely, verse 57, surely those who are reverently conscious of their Lord, and who believe in the revelations of their Lord, and who never set up any idols beside their Lord. As they give their charities, their hearts are fully reverent, for they recognize that they will be summoned before their Lord. They are eager to do righteous works. They complete in doing them. The disbelievers unappreciative. We never burden any soul beyond its means, and we keep a record that utters the truth. No one will suffer injustice, because their minds are oblivious to this. They commit works that do not conform with this. Their works are evil. So this surah is 23 believers, and God starts off the attributes of the believers, and here we see some more attributes. That the believers basically are reverently conscious of their Lord, reverently, not just being aware that God is present. They are reverence in that. They're really humble. It's like somebody walks into
Mhm.
the
Brother
president's.
Ali, did you, sorry,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
sorry to interrupt. I think you skipped the footnote for 23. I think you may have skipped the footnote for 23, 27.
23, 27. Let me see. 23, 27. No, I did read that about the watercraft. Yeah, I read it after I read, and after I start
Oh,
explaining,
oh, I'm
and
sorry. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah,
Continue.
the watercraft, the logs, yes, mashallah. So this is the attributes basically of the reverently conscious. That is a different situation. Like you walk into a very king's palace, or you're not only aware that the king is there, you are very reverent, you're very humble. As God talks about the same surah, when they do their contact prayer, they are reverence in their contact prayer. So not just standing there and like thinking this is my duty to do 5 prayers a day. I mean, this is a blessing that God has allowed us. Is even Abraham is asking, praying to God that Rabbi Ja'alni muqimas salata wa min zurriyati rabbana wa taqabbal du'a, that make me be the one who observe the contact prayer, and my children, you know and my children. And then he says, at the end he says, please listen to my prayer, something like that. So not only he's praying, he's praying to God that please accept my prayer. So this kind of reverence, that when you're standing in the contact prayer, this is a privilege that he has allowed us to be. So in our mind, we should be reverence and conscious that God is, we are present. If our soul maybe in somehow we're in contact with God. As we talk on the phone, we don't see the person, but we know that person is listening, and we're not gonna be misbehaving. Like even if you're talking to a president, if he talks to you, like you say, "Oh, I have 2 minutes, talk fast." You're not, you know that he's listening. You're going to be talking to him in very, very polite and nice way. You're not going to be being arrogant. The same kind of concept, uh, and they believe. And the relation, and who believes in the revelations of their Lord. And mashallah, we have the revelation from God, and who set up never idols beside their Lord. And whenever we give charities, we have to be fully reverent, because this is also a privilege that He has allowed us to invest in His system. This is basically an investment. Like there's a bank who gives us so much money, and they only pick certain people to invest. And if they pick you that to invest, that you're going to be like very reverent. So if we are giving charity, first of all, the money is coming from God. We didn't earn it, and He is allowing us to invest back with Him in a generous. So if you're giving money and you fully reverence to that, just imagine the return multiplies even more than 700% in some those kind of sense. And then the verse that God talks about, the seven spikes and 100, if you read the next verse, it even defines more, I think, the following verses, that uh, who seek God's pleasure when they're giving the money, that it's on the fertile ground, and even where so much rain falls, and even if there's slight drizzle, it multiplies by two, is my understanding, is that if you are seeking God's pleasure, so it's way more than 700. It's maybe, I said, twice as much. So maybe 700 times two, even maybe, and beyond maybe that, we don't know. So we need to be reverently conscious to God and eager to do righteous work. Then if you have any opportunity comes, like at work, if there's opportunity, how people eagerly run, then you're offered, or you're going to get 3.5 times or double time or 10 times, people will be running. So this is where, if there's opportunity, that we need to be eager to do that. And God never burdens anybody beyond. So don't even ever think that I mean, I'm a believer. I've been suffering in this and that. Every test is precise to according to the each human being, and anything we do, is all recorded, and no injustice is befall upon us. Um, and I mean, so I mean, actually, this is, I'm sorry, this is about the disbelievers, that who are unappreciative, that we never burden any soul beyond its mean. We keep a record, the truth that utters the truth. No one will suffer injustice. So it's all those disbelievers, because they are the one complains about everything. But God is saying that whatever you're doing, it's according to what God has blessed them. Their limits. God doesn't go beyond their limits. So all these things to be pondered upon, and no injustice will fall on them. Not even slight injustice. Everything is just precise. And because their minds are oblivious to this message, that right now we have Quran, they commit works that do not confirm with this. Their works are evil. So basically, as we know, I mean, even traditional Muslims, all the stuff that they're doing, it does not it's not according to the Quran, and all the work they're doing, all the religions, all the stuff they're following, and even in their mind thinking they're doing the sacrifice on the Abrahams and the Hajj, and they're thinking they're earning a lot of good deeds. All this stuff, they have absolutely no proof whatsoever, whatever they're doing. And the proof that they have, this Quran, and they're rejecting to it. They have created all kind of stuff on the side. So, and God is saying their works are evil. Basically, He's the one who's saying. So, inshallah, we'll stop here. And if you have any questions and answers, we can talk about it, inshallah.
So thank you, brother.
Thank you,
Great
inshallah.
study, mashallah.
Inshallah, praise God.
Mashallah. So I see here, that the theme here is always about, how people consistently refuse to accept the messenger, refuse to believe in God when God sends his messengers, and we see that. with the examples that, mashallah, you shared, regarding Noah. And I mean, there is a very striking similarity between Noah and Dr. Rashad Khalifa in the sense of how he believed in, how his family responded to the message, and how the people were annihilated. And so the messenger of the covenant also, says the same thing about, just like Noah, people who stick with the messenger, who follow the messenger, who obey his teaching strictly will be saved, and everybody else will be annihilated in the same manner, and obviously, it's not going to be like a flood and stuff, most likely, right? I mean, we do have the smoke prophecy for entire community that will be, wiped off the face of the earth when the smoke comes. But you also have people who have decided to not follow the messenger, who have decided to betray the messenger, that they are handpicked and annihilated individually. And we see that really, terrible things happen to people who claim to be submitters, but they don't do justice to the message. Either they change, or create innovations and stuff like that, or decide to pick and choose what they follow from the messenger, and they basically have the same fate because they're hypocrites. And so, I mean, these all these verses, remind us of the same thing. Like, the people who disbelieve, look for excuses to reject God's message by rejecting the messenger, and they say things like, why should we follow a human being when he eats from the same food we eat, and goes to the markets and all that, just like we do. And if we do, like, we will be misguided. And people do the same way, when it comes to the messenger of the covenant. A lot of people who even say that they believe in the messenger, but then anything the messenger says, they say it's his personal opinion because he was just a human being, right? I mean, this is the exact words that come out of people's mouths, as they say, well, he was a human. Rashad Khalifa was a human being. They don't even say Dr. Khalifa, I mean, they would disrespectfully say Rashad was a human being. And and this is his personal opinion, things that don't find. And so the human aspect, has been uh, a blocker for a lot of people, because inside they're actually jealous that this person is human too, just like me. And why should I believe in that person? I'm a human being too, and I'm just gonna go with what I think is right. And this stops people from believing, and it's kind of goes similar, has a similar idea that when Satan refused to fall prostrate before Adam, he said, he's a human being, why should I fall prostrate? I'm better than him. You created him from mud, and you created me from fire. So Satan basically allows these people to reject the messenger. And you were talking about what is the test for these people, the people of Noah. They were tested, right? And the messengership is such an important test. It's an essential test for people. For example, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, when he talks about not like, when people asked him, like, why did he have to proclaim his messengership? Like, could he just not say the things that he needed to say and not say he was a messenger? But was told that as part of the test for people, that they have to accept the messenger, they have to believe the messenger. So it has to be said, because it's part of our test as humans to obey God and kill our egos, and accept the messenger, that God sent someone just like us instead of us to be a messenger. I mean, this becomes a great test for your ego, when you have to give up your own opinion, over God's decision, to choose someone and give him the correct understanding. And so, I mean, when we read that, I mean, these are actual things that happened like thousands of years ago. But still we see that human beings remain the same. Human being has these inherent qualities that remain the same within all humans. And regardless of what era it is in, I mean, the humans exhibit the same kind of rebellious nature by rejecting God's message, by rejecting the messenger, by ridiculing the messenger, by mocking the messenger and the message. And now it's like interesting. You mentioned the Eid, for example. I mean, there's so many people that we see that are celebrating it, and with social media, I mean, you can't help but interact with these people, and they're celebrating it, and you see them, you know, doing all these things like you said on YouTube, and they wish, like, one of the things I noticed is that these people, a lot of these people wish you Eid, and every year, like for me, like every year I tell these people that hey, like, I don't celebrate Eid. Like, Eid's an innovation, it's man-made, and God, not authorized by God. And then the next year, the same people, or same year, like one Eid, then the next Eid they mention, they congratulate you on Eid again. It's like they don't even care. And even like what I noticed is that some of the people that they congratulate me with Eid, they don't even care what my response is. Like, my response, like, some of the people, I actually told them, like, hey, this is wrong. Like, it's not part of Islam. Like, we don't celebrate it. I don't celebrate. It's not authorized by God. And but I say, but God says when you respond with a greeting, you should respond with an equal or better greeting. So I said, but thank you for the gesture, for your thoughtfulness. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And they don't even care. They don't even feel. They just want to congratulate you, and they just want to get praise back. And with their response, you can say that they don't care at all what you said, and they say, "Oh, thank you," or something like that. "Oh, thank you," and "you too." Like, they don't have any regard for what you're saying. Nobody. I mean, these people don't even care what God says, and they just want to do what they have seen their parents do, and they're just following their parents blindly.
Yeah, mashallah, brother. Yeah, this is really true. As you mentioned, the Messenger of the Covenant, and we can see the family. I mean, yeah, just like Noah, even Lot, his wife, we see with the Messenger of the Covenant, and we have evidence, his son and what he's doing, and his family, and all this stuff that's happening.
Hmm.
So we need to really understand on the personal level that is my family. I mean, I mashallah, I had a talk with my kids that you know mashallah, you're born in a submission family, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know how long I'm going to stay on earth, but you guys going to live on, and then I don't know how what's going to happen when you grow older, and at what point, and I don't know how you're going to die as a submitter. But I mean, I'm literally like in a begging way that please, whatever you do, don't let this go. Keep hold fast to the God's rope and stay submitter. And whatever else you do, just don't let this go. Because if you let this go, I mean, everything is a loss. There's nothing good in it. So I personally, I mean, I have hope, and at the same time, I'm like 50% ready that I don't know what's gonna happen with my immediate family and how long. But I'm more concerned about, like, we all should concern about ourselves. But at the same time, you can have concern about others, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future, how long my or your children, how they're going to lead on. So that's a very questionable thing, Michelle.
Hmm. Yeah, I think one good thing would be, to try to encourage, kids to have studies or to join studies. And once I've noticed that, once they get a little bit older, then they start, they're just, I mean, they might be just sitting there, and you think they're playing and they're not listening, but believe me, they're listening. you know and as time goes on, I mean, you'll see, like, they'll also start asking simple questions, and then as time goes on, their questions will become more sophisticated. So, but allow them to hear, you know when you do listen to Quran studies.
Yeah, mashallah. I mean, yeah, we do what we can. Praise God.
Mm-hmm.
Even Messenger
Inshallah.
says that, in one of the how do you study that? They were talking about the children that how do you treat your kids, and he said, there's nothing. I mean, just do you can do your part and leave rest to God.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if they're to be saved, they will be saved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's for their that's for the contact prayers, right?
Yeah,
Mashallah. But for example, you can even see from the studies, from the Messenger of the Covenant, like there were studies his kids would be present in the studies also,
yeah,
so they were listening. So I mean, what one good thing I would say to everyone, to everyone listening, is if you have children and your children are young, you can start I mean, and you think that, for example, the studies that we have as adults, might be too much for their level. You can start having studies with them periodically, and just have it specially tailored for them, and have them participate or listen, so this would really help them too.
yeah. Also, we, mashallah, when we do our Quran study at home, recently we started. We're trying to do this that we encourage them to read before the Quran study, the verses that we're gonna read, so they have some idea. And then when we do the
Hmm.
Quran study, then we ask
Hmm.
them, "What do you think about this verse?" So that way we
Uh-huh.
kind of actively quizzes their mind.
Mashallah.
Not just talking, and let them listening. We ask them
Hmm.
questions. Yeah,
Well, so I love the kind of questions, little kids come up with when they
yeah,
read the
yeah,
Quran. I mean, sometimes they're so intelligent, you're just like wondering, wow, like I never even thought of that.
yeah. That is true. Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
It's God's way of teaching us. If you put our ego high,
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, who are you to want to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
Then this is idol worship in that sense. And God is in so
SubhanAllah.
many ways. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like you mentioning the some submitters, they don't believe in certain things about the messenger. So there's one group that I was, they rejected the audio clips and they say, well, this is just his opinion, but they say that they do believe on the videos, the sermons, and all that stuff. So one time when giving the sermon, I say that in the sermon, it was not audio tape. In the sermon, Messenger says that the two khutbahs of the Friday prayer is part of the salat, so you need to face towards the
Mm-hmm.
Kaaba. And
Mm-hmm.
a couple of people completely rejected it; they didn't even move. I'm not sure if they're listening or
Mm-hmm.
not, but I mean, this is where people are
Mm-hmm.
exposed to their lies.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah, and then also like this also shows that some of the people, like in some congregations, like they sit together like men and women, side by side, and they sit on couches, and and so if it's part of the prayer, like men are supposed to be in the front and women are supposed to be behind them, and they should be facing the Kaaba, like you said. But yeah, if they're sitting on the couches are not facing. More than likely, the couches are not facing the Kaaba. They're facing wherever they're facing, and they just sit like, you know.
yeah. You see, the sermon is you're not supposed to talk. You're not supposed to get up and leave or answer your phone. I mean, that's pretty much the same thing we do in the contact prayer. We are focused and we don't answer a phone or talk to anybody.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much the same thing. But people don't
Hmm.
understand that. For sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, unless it's like an emergency or something, like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, if you forgot to turn off the stove and before a
Yeah.
house catches on fire,
Hmm.
something
Yeah.
like that.
The smoke alarm goes off.
Oh yeah, yeah. Then your house is full of smoke.
The smoke prophecy happens in your home.
Yes, yes. There's your proof. You know,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
why people say smoke has
Started.
already happened, right?
Yeah, all this pollution and everything. But this is gonna be the
Hmm.
real smoke that God is talking about.
Hmm.
Closer to the day of judgment.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, I think these people that don't they reject the Quran when God says that the messengers never speak on their own.
Yeah.
It's a verse from the Quran that the messengers never speak on their own. So there's no such thing as the messenger having a personal opinion that they give to people. Like the Messenger of the Covenant talk about insurance, and you say, well, that was his opinion. You know, I mean, someone cannot have a messenger who's giving personal opinions on God. You know, that's because God doesn't send such people as messengers. Messengers are sent as people who strictly, you know, give God's message. So for these people to reject, like say, you know, we will listen to him when he's in a sermon, but not when he's in audio or things like that, or people who say about the smoke that, you know, they don't believe it's true, and this is this. I mean, there's so many things that they picked out, right? I mean, this is all just people just hurting their own soul, you know, and exposing themselves because, you know, God is just allowing these people to expose their own arrogance, and they don't realize, you know, how bad it is for them. But you know, people do it, and they think that, you know, it makes them more intellectual and more intelligent because they're not accepting something from someone. Um, but because their egos, right? Their egos stop them.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, like the Noah's Ark, the footnote, and there's many other footnotes where the information is not from the Quran. I mean, he's speaking from God. You know that the footnote that he writes, it's coming from God, and we 100%. When we read it, we have 100% surety that this is exactly what happened. Are we going to question about that? Then we have doubts in our heart. Wherever he says that this verse is talking about the message of the covenant, we say yes, sir. We don't question about that. It
Hmm.
doesn't seem like God is talking. I mean, this we say yes, sir. You know, so similar
Hmm.
way, if he's talking about the insurance, this is actually a blessing in a way. What he's saying is, you have insurance with God, you know, which is free, and which not only it doesn't even work the way the world insurance works, where some tragedy happens and then they rescue you, and there's a most of the time there's a huge damage that is you have to suffer with. I mean, they can surely replace your car, but if you physically or medically paralyzed or something, who's going to repair that? Nobody. But God's insurance, what basically he's saying is, you will not even get accident, you know, you will not even get hurt. So which one do you want? So they're rejecting God's insurance. They're falling to the other insurance, where then they suffer. You see them, they get
Hmm.
hurt, they get sick, you know, and they
Yeah.
complain, you know. I mean,
Hmm.
this is a and his audio notes are actually blessing. There are a lot of things he has made easy for us.
Hmm.
Had this insurance thing was not covered, you know, imagine we would have been buying insurance and living like, you know, regular people. You know, where you're paying $400 or $500 per person on the medical insurance and this and that.
Hmm.
You know, imagine all the money that we
Yeah.
save.
Yeah, and I see most of these people, you know, they get cancer, some kind of cancer, you know, especially people who are like promoting insurance. For some reason, like a lot of them that I've seen, you know, they all just get some kind of cancer, and then they just have a horrible end.
Yeah, this is the reality. I mean, and the sad thing is they don't learn from that. You know, they
Hmm.
start rejecting further more into the idea of that
Hmm.
absolute happiness hereafter.
Hmm.
They further their hole dig their hole more deeper
Hmm.
and deeper,
Hmm.
and they don't realize that. You know, they don't. I mean, these tragedies that happens, maybe minor cancer, minor this and minor that. It's a kind of shock for these people. They listen, you know, come back, but the ego and everything, they continue to follow their path until the ultimate retribution comes in. You know, we have the miracle of 19. We have a huge responsibility to, you know, we cannot make our own judgments and something that is given to us from God clearly. Mashallah, it's sad. And here's the other thing is that the even in the traditional Muslims, you know, when you say something like, you know, I was thinking about that, that if you say I don't believe in Hadith because there's no proof in it, people get upset, right? But when you say that I don't believe I'm Shia or I'm this and that, You believe on those Bukhari and the other hadith book. I believe on this book. They'll be fine with you. You know, they'll be fine. They're not following
Mm-hmm.
your book, but they're following another book, and they're fine with that. But the minute you say I don't believe in all of them, then they get angry. So,
Mm-hmm.
they're angry with you, but not with the other person who also disbelieve in your book. He's not
Mm-hmm.
believing in your book, right? A Shia doesn't believe in your book. They have their own four sets of books, and within even them, they have separate beliefs. I mean, I don't believe in this book or this and that. I mean, this is insane. Yeah. So, mashallah, praise God for blessing
Mm-hmm.
us.
True.
And mashallah, and something even like you bump your foot on the furniture or something like minor happens, mashallah, I start saying the inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. To God we belong, to Him we will return. And it has, I mean, in my experience, it has insane results. uh, like sometimes you think I might have cut my finger or something. You start saying, and you have insane results that nothing happened. Basically, nothing happens. And I'm like a very lousy worker. I like to do handiworks, and every time I do some minor project, I usually end up cutting my finger. I like to work on my car, myself, and every time like something happened and I do that. But mashallah, the last 3 4 years, it's a blessing of God that very rarely that happens. And it's the same guy who's much older than before, so who's more clumsy than before. But why less accidents? These are the signs from God, mashallah. Praise God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mashallah. So I guess if there are no other comments or questions, we can conclude today's study. What do you guys think?
Yeah, inshallah.
Okay, so thank you all for joining, and thank you, Ali, for teaching. Inshallah, God willing, our next study is going to be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, inshallah.